Good day. This study is titled Comparing ASEAN versus Philippines Rice Cultivation Emissions via Linear Regression Analysis by Quiangco, Hismana, and Tumanon. So, just as a short introduction, rice is a staple in Southeast Asian countries. In fact, the Philippines is among the top rice producers, with rice being the most planted crop in the country. However, rice cultivation has its drawbacks such that it emits methane, a greenhouse gas, which is bad for the environment. So, with this said, our study wants to answer this specific question. How does the Philippines compare to ASEAN as a whole in terms of methane emissions in its rice cultivation practices? Are our rice practices worse when it comes to methane emissions, or is it better, or is it almost the same as ASEAN as a whole? So for the methodology, we've used the FAOStat database for rice cultivation emissions, in which 75% of this database is trained and 25% is tested. So the two elements are area harvested and emissions in this data set. And we'll be using Southeast Asia data from 1960s up until the present. Basically, we're going to compare the linear regression model. So given X area, how much is the emissions in kilotons? So we'll compare that of the ASEAN countries, including Philippines, and then for Philippines as a whole. So we will be testing and evaluating different regression models as seen here, and we'll pick the one that's the most accurate, as in the lowest MSE for ASEAN and Philippines respectively. So it could be different regression models for each. So for the results, for the model evaluation, we found that the Philippines linear regression model using OLS, or ordinary least squares, is the most accurate. And for the ASEAN, SVR-RBF, which is a nonlinear kernel, performed best. So for the regression model, as I mentioned earlier, SVR and RBF for ASEAN and Philippines, OLS. You can also see the MSE and RSEs here. The linear regression model is as follows. This is for ASEAN and this is for the Philippines. Since RBF is nonlinear, we just estimated the coefficient using this mean of the support vectors. For every 100,000 hectares of rice cultivated, in the ASEAN, it emits only 56,391. But in the Philippines, it emits 94K, which is a lot higher. In conclusion, the rice cultivation practices in the Philippines and ASEAN really do differ, with the Philippines producing 1.68 times more methane than ASEAN as a whole. So for our recommendations, we want to study the rice cultivation practices and figure out why we're producing a lot more emissions compared to the other countries, explore more data sets that have other greenhouse gases and other factors, and have an in-depth study into year and region-specific rice cultivation emissions to see which year has the highest ones, and also similar study with a nonlinear regression analysis approach. Thank you for listening.